Okay, here's my little video about our conversation about these two statements I keep stressing and elevating and turning into a big deal. It's not a scripted presentation, a little bit off the cuff. I hope I can make some sense. One thing I've mentioned in the posts concerns how brief they are, and also that they shouldn't be explanatory or lead players to go somewhere with them aside from their intrinsic content. So, the first concept is that these are prompts, and unlike, I guess the prompt is a terrible word because you're prompting somebody to do a specific thing. Like you're saying you're prompting them for their line and you know what the line is. So they're supposed to say the thing that you're prompting them to do. Prompting seems to have kind of a very controlling, directed, sense of what they're supposed to do. Whereas here, I guess it's more like a friendly shove. Is that the appropriate term? Whatever it would mean uh, to throw open a particular door. And you know what the door is, but you don't know what's on the other side. The other person is going to, these analogies are terrible. They all presuppose something existing that they're supposed to go to, or supposed to make, or supposed to say. Whereas here, the question is not what they're supposed to say, but rather what they will say. In many ways, the statements are almost a Rorschach, I suppose. Boy, I am just hunting for analogies. In that you receive the statement and it seems obvious to you what it must mean. And yet, what you, the player, see that it must mean is very much an act of your own creation and your own sense of investment in playing this game together, and not at all what some other person is expecting you to do with it. Whew. A lot of verbiage on that one simple concept. But let's look at one of the best implications of that, which was really, really hard to put into textual words, and maybe my little fumbly struggles to speak will do better. Which is that, well, let's take one. Let's take one of my favorites for the second statement: family, love and lies. Fantastic. This whole thing is going to just be dripping with, family secrets and family conflicts and, past history and hopes for the future and the interplay of rivalries versus senses of obligations. Oh, goodness gracious. We can just go on and on. But does that mean it's everything? No. What it leaves wide open are other dramatic features that get their own charge by being implicated or tied to or embedded in family, love, and lies. So, can there be a murder mystery? Sure. Can there be a criminal investigation? Sure. Can there be a threat, based on the alien invasion? Sure. Can there be anything that is any other kind of conflict, or even just an element? Sure. In other words, the statements aren't exclusive, and I think that's kind of important, especially when we go back to the first statement and we can take a look at something along the lines of what Chris has written, that the powers are, that he talks about their alien origin, their extra dimensional origin. Partly it's a matter of not worrying about physics as we know them. You get to sort of jump over that whole conceptual log insofar as it's a problem in the first place by saying, no, the powers are from somewhere else. What's also interesting is the notion that they bleed into our dimension and very much via personal contact. So you end up with powers being hereditary, and you end up with people getting powers. And so, it's a really nice bit of focus for a number of common tropes. So with that in mind, there's also this slight implication that the the contact is still ongoing. So you have more of this kind of extra dimensional impact. And one of the nice things is you don't really have to explain or develop that any more than you want. So then, to get to my point, the character creation tells us how much we want. One of the players may say, "This, I love the extra dimensional thing. My character is from there." Ooh, well, now we've got room to really start developing what that other dimension might be like. Whereas if no player does that, then the whole thing can kind of be left to, it's a sort of mysterioso fun thing where we don't really have to go delving into it. We can talk more about what the powers are doing for people as we know them right here in the world as we know it, but with this stuff putting powers in it. So you really can kind of use the players as the guide to where to run with developing setting. Now, in this sense, the GM is also a player. If no player wants to go in that direction, the option is still open to do so. I mean, if I am going to be GMing this game and I am just bonkers about the idea of someone native to that dimension and interacting with that person, well, I can have one. Nothing stops me from making up, bad guys or interesting guys or gals or whoever de novo, and including them too. It's just worthwhile to recognize that that's part of all this supporting cast that develops off the sheets as well. And that if a player does go there, or for that matter, anywhere, in terms of setting material, backstory, implications of powers, features, any of those things, that you do run with it. You don't want to leave something behind when it's sitting there right there to be done off the sheet. And you can also put yourself in that same position and say, what are the things I like from these statements that are my jumping off points? And so you really have an immense amount to work with. So I think that's really my issue, is to say, look, we've got that immense amount to work with that extra dimensional powers thing with Family, Love, and Lies, but other things too. I would recommend in terms of the powers that the GM not go too crazy with it in terms of bringing an entirely different new full statement as a piece of what's going on. But certainly anything they want to do with it is fine, and things that other players bring in. Perhaps another player or one of the players brings in something very, very mystic about this set of powers. And you can say, well, it's this extra dimensional in origin, and it has these mystic qualities. All of a sudden, we know more about that other dimensional energy or influence or whatever because of the spin that particular player has brought to it. And that's a good thing. Let the statements expand through the statements on character sheets. If we've got Family, Love, and Lies, and it just so happens that one of the characters is an extremely dedicated criminal investigator and very oriented toward issues of the law and issues of crimes, fine. That can be a part of what's going on too. So not letting the statements force you into little boxes. Oh, we dare not do anything that's not Family, Love, and Lies. That's not where we're going at all. That's what I mean by the door. You do, oddly, need relatively narrow doors, but then when you step out into the diversity beyond them, somehow it's not chaos anymore. Somehow now there's a lens that we're using to know what to look at the other options that will proliferate off of the sheets and out of your own imagination as well if you are the game master. Hoping that's helping. Feedback. Let me know. Say lots and lots. Argue. Try examples. See where we get.